Hi, let's talk a little more about valves, brass instruments, and how they work. As you can see, this is a tuba, but it could just as well be a euphonium, or a baritone, or a tenor horn, or a French horn, or a trumpet, or a flugelhorn, or a cornet. They all work on the same principles. Today we want to talk about why your valved brass instrument is only in tune if you're using your ear. Let's take an example. Let's say I want to play this pitch and then lower it by a whole tone. You'll remember I need to press the first valve in order to do that. So let's take a step back and investigate exactly why that is that the pitch was lowered by a whole tone. Let's say my tuba is 18 feet long, approximately. And let's say that in order to lower a pitch by a whole tone, I need to lengthen my instrument by 1/9. So if my instrument is 18 feet long and I need to lower it by 1/9, 1/9 of 18 feet would be 2 feet, right? So I would need to add 2 feet to my instrument in order to play a whole tone lower. And you'll see that this first valve is about 2 feet long. So, no problem so far. But let's assume I'm playing a different note. How about this note? I'm playing valves 2 and 3. Let's assume I want to lower that note by a whole tone. How do I do that? Well, the obvious answer might seem to be, well, press the first valve, because pressing the first valve lowers the pitch by a whole tone. But let's look at this a little closer. If I'm pressing the second and third valve, then how long is my tuba? It's not 18 feet anymore. It's maybe, let's say, 22.5 feet maybe. Now if I want to lower this pitch by a whole tone, then I need to add 1/9 of the length. So 1/9 of 22.5 is almost 2.5 feet. And you'll remember that my first valve has a detour of only 2 feet. So that means when I try to lower this pitch by a whole tone, I won't be quite lowering it enough. I would actually need 2.5 feet, and I've only lengthened my instrument by 2 feet, right? So it should sound like this, but it will sound like this. Be a little out of tune. It will be a little sharp, because the pitch is too high, then you say sharp. If the pitch is too low, you say it is flat. So basically, again, aside from very specific tuning considerations that we won't get into, basically, if you're ever playing combinations of valves, so 1 and 3, or 1, 2 and 3, or 1 and 2, etc., it could be the case that your pitch is just a little bit sharp. So in that case, you really need to be using your ear. And in fact, every note that you play, you need to be using your ear. But you might be asking yourself, well, if the pitch is sharp, well then I guess there's nothing I can do about it. But there is something you can do about it. Think of the valves as the coarse adjustment on a microscope. It gets you to about the right place. The fine adjustment on our microscope is here. Your jaw and your lips. Here's an exercise. Take any tone and raise it up a half step and lower it a half step without using the valves, just by using your lips. That's called lipping a note up or lipping a note down. You don't need to understand exactly what it is that you're actually doing there. But in general, if you lower your jaw just a teeny weensy bit, that makes the pitch a little bit lower. And if you raise your jaw just a little bit, that makes the pitch a little higher. So if you do this exercise and you learn to lower and raise a pitch, then you can always correct for the imperfections of your instrument. So, the basic thing to have in mind is the instrument doesn't tell you how the tone is supposed to sound, and you just have to live with it. But you determine what the pitch is supposed to sound like, and then you help your instrument to perform exactly that pitch by using first the valves, the coarse adjustment, and then your lips, the fine adjustment. So now you know a little bit more about tuning problems on brass valved instruments.